before a single word crosses your lips, before you bow the head or lift the eyes. Stop. Stop. Ask with courage. What do I mean by God right now? Not yesterday's God, not the God of childhood hymns, not the God of the one who sits beside you. What is the thing, the presence, the power you are addressing in this instant? If you do not know that, you do not yet know to whom you speak, and any prayer will be a conversation with an echo. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. That is not a command to decorate the mind with pious images. It is a summons to honesty. Much that passes for prayer is addressed to a picture inherited from family, culture, or fear. And because it is addressed to a picture, it returns only pictures, imagined answers, brief comforts, the tremor of hope that fades when the night grows quiet. I say to you, begin without ornament, without performance, without theology even. Start clean. Be honest. What are you calling God? A magnified person with moods? A celestial clerk who tallies your virtues and vices? A distant sovereign who might be persuaded by the right words? Or have you glimpsed, however faintly, the one presence, the one life, the one power that is not made, not moved, not managed? I am that I am, said the voice that burned in the bush and yet consumed it not. God is spirit, and they that worship must worship in spirit and in truth. Do you mean spirit, or do you mean a thought about spirit? Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy to tell God what God is. Then you can be led into what God is. I am not here to argue religion. We are not gathering creeds to see whose pile is tallest. We are not repairing to a formula book to obtain outcomes. We are asking, with the candor of a child and the seriousness of a surgeon, what is functioning as God in my consciousness? Because whatever sits on that throne, fear, fate, fortune, human will, that is what your prayer will meet. And you will call its answers God's will. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The word is not a threat, it is a mercy. If you will have no other God before the one, you will not be tormented by the many. So hold your tongue, let it fall out before you rush to inform heaven. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Stop, start clean. Sit long enough to feel the poverty of your definitions. Let them die of hunger in the silence. Be still and know that I am God. Not be clever and know. Not be fervent and know. Be still. The stillness is not laziness. It is courage. It is the courage to say, I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If you will accept that one sentence as your starting place, the scaffolding of self-made prayer begins to fall away, and something real can appear. What then are we doing in this hour? We are turning from talking at a sky to discovering the presence that is closer than breathing. We are not trying to make God be. We are asking whether the word we mouth points to the living reality or to a mental image. And until the answer is honest, we do not proceed. God is one, not your idea plus God, not your fear plus God. God is. Say nothing more than that until the pressure to say more has subsided. Let the heart learn the difference between thinking God and knowing God. In that clean beginning, you will have done more for your prayer than 1,000 ornate phrases could ever do. And peace will begin not achieved by effort, but revealed when nothing else is seated on the throne. If we are to start clean, we must also trace the smudges on the glass. Who taught you the shape of God before you could read your own heart? Was it a parent's trembling caution? Don't make God angry. Or a grandmother's soft sugar. Be good and God will give you a treat. Was it a minister's thunder that shook the pews? Was it the schoolyard chant that mocked the child who didn't know the prayer by heart? Be honest. Is your God the one you love or the one you fear? Perfect love casteth out fear. If fear is driving, love is not yet in the seat. And if fear is in the seat, it is not God that sits there. It is an idol wearing a borrowed name. One of the culture God. Stitched to your flag. Harnessed to your politics. Yoked to your economics. Did you learn a God who blesses your team and curses theirs? A God who smiles on the successful and speaks in the language of numbers and crowds? Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. If your treasure is approval, your God will be a publicist. If your treasure is safety, your God will be a policeman. If your treasure is success, your God will be a manager. But God is not a profession. God is. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. A shepherd does not bargain with sheep. He guides. He does not count merit. He knows. Let us come closer. Trace the hour of your first bargain prayer. Perhaps it was a thunderstorm in a small bed, promising, if you stop the lightning, I will be good. Perhaps it was a hospital hallway, whispering, if you save this life, I will never miss a Sunday. Perhaps it was the exam room, the boardroom, the courtroom, and the same bargain in a different suit. That is not prayer. That is trade. You were speaking not to the eternal, but to a projection, an enlarged parent who could be flattered, threatened, or bought. And then, when the storm passed or did not, you call your feelings the will of God. Listen to the prophets, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Not by your vow, not by your phrasing, not by your performance. What about the success stories with a halo on them? The neighbor who says, we prayed this exact prayer and the job came. Or the cousin who says, we claimed the verse and the check arrived. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy to read providence from outcomes. The mind loves cause and effect because the mind loves control. Here is the hidden idol, the need to manage life by a religious lever. We call that lever prayer, but it is not prayer. It is manipulation draped in verses. It keeps you at the center as the doer, the chooser, the engineer of destiny. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Power is not control. Love is not bribery. A sound mind does not confuse the one with the tools of control. Now take an inventory that costs you something. When you are afraid, really afraid, what God do you rush to? The stern father who needs appeasing, the vending machine that needs the right coin, the tribal chief who defends your side if you chant loud enough, the peer-approved deity who keeps you respectable? Or do you turn to the presence that cannot be moved by your fear because it is the stillness in which fear has no breath? As long as you seek a God to manage outcomes, you will meet your own anxiety dressed in sacred language. As long as you imagine a God who is rewarded today and punisher tomorrow, you will live by the weather of your emotions. As long as you accept a God who can be persuaded, you will never meet the one who cannot be moved because he is the all. I am not asking you to scold your parents, your clergy, your nation, your memory. Honor the love that did its best, but see it. Hold it up to the light and ask, does this image require my flattery? Does it thrill at my vows? Does it threaten me to keep me in the fold? If so, you have named an idol. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The word is mercy. It frees you from the wheel of fear and bargain. It turns you from a God you can use to the God you can only know. God is one. God is. When that becomes the treasure, the lesser gods lose their wages, and prayer begins not as a bid for control, but as a returning to what already is. Now we must be precise. Bring whatever you call God into the light of a simple test and see whether it stands or collapses. Does it brighten when you flatter it and dim when you forget your devotions? Does it move with the news cycle, cheerful on your promotion day and sullen when the market dips? Does it smile when you chant the right phrase and sulk when you miss a step? If so, you have not found God. You have found a mood given a halo. I am the Lord. I change not. If what you call God sways, you are looking at your own swaying. Consider another test. Can your words maneuver it? Can you bargain if you, then I, and watch it make terms? Can you threaten if you do not, I will not, and feel it back down? If it can be flattered, threatened, or bought, it is a mental idol. The infinite does not rise to your praise or fall to your neglect. The infinite is every good gift, and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness. Variableness belongs to mind. Isness belongs to God. Ask further. Does your God require your defense? Must you become angry for it, advertise for it, prop it up with success stories? If your deity crumples without your enthusiasm, you are nursing an opinion, not abiding in presence. Be still and know that I am God. Be still first. The knowledge follows stillness, not salesmanship. As long as you believe there is power in a good argument about God, you are far from the kingdom. God is not proven, God is realized. Listen to your praying, and you will hear what you worship. If it is negotiation, you have a negotiable God. If it is pleading, you have imagined a reluctant God. If it is repetition to wear down a celestial judge, you are knocking at a locked mental door. Stop. Stop. Stop negotiating. Stop pleading. Stop repeating. Let your tongue fall out before you attempt to instruct infinity. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions, not because God is irritated by noise, but because noise binds you to the God of noise. Now feel the cost of a manufactured deity. Where there is a God who can be swayed, there is also a God who can be lost, and so you live under chronic anxiety. Where there is a God who must be kept happy, there is guilt, the exhausting schedule of penance and performance. Where there is a God who takes sides, there is the battlefield of two powers, your life chopped into sacred and secular, safe zones and danger zones, beloved people and condemned people. Separation is the bill you pay for a God you can manage. Who by taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature? If thought could make God be, then every thinker would be a creator of gods, and the world would be saved by verbosity. It has not been, because thought is not power. God is power. Therefore, there is only one power. Let us test the image again. Does it localize? Does your God live mostly in a building, on a calendar day, at an hour you schedule? Presence does not punch a time clock. Lo, I am with you always. Always is not a slot between errands. Always is the fabric of being. If your God is stronger on holidays than on hospital nights, you have given fear a throne and draped it with tinsel. Do not be embarrassed by what you find. Idols are not evil. They are empty. They promise certainty in exchange for vigilance, and the exchange never ends. That is why the prophets cry, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Not because the Holy One is jealous of rivals, but because rivalry exists only in the mind that has invented a second power. The moment you admit two powers, you are drafted into a war of outcomes. The moment you consent to one, war ceases in you even before it ceases around you. So let the test do its merciful cutting. If it can be bribed, lay it down. If it can be cajoled, lay it down. If it swells with your applause and shrinks with your silence, lay it down. If it demands that you keep the universe spinning with affirmations, lest the floor drop out, lay it down. My thoughts are not your thoughts. As long as you have faith in the machinery of your thoughts about God, you will miss the God who is present when thought is quiet. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. When that sentence is not a slogan but a surrender, the false image loses its livelihood. We are not destroying anything real. We are removing the scaffolding that hides the temple not made with hands. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it into place. And yet, when the bargaining stops, it is there, nearer than your breath. God is one. God is whole there without flattery, without threat, without price. And the mind's idol will starve, while the living reality will require no persuasion, only your availability. Stay with me now and let the next plank be laid with exactness. God is power. Therefore, there is only one power. Hear it as the Shema sounded it. The Lord our God is one Lord. One. Not God and another force co-equal and opposite. Not God and chance. Not God and the devil. Not God and disease. The moment you admit two powers, you have signed conscription papers for a war that never ends, and fear becomes your commanding officer. As long as you believe evil has power, fear is justified. As long as you believe lack has power, anxiety is reasonable. As long as you believe the past has power, guilt and shame are inevitable. As long as you believe people have power over your life, resentment becomes your daily bread. But the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, and fullness does not share its throne. Dualism is subtle. It does not come with horns. It comes with concern. You say, I believe in God, and then you whisper, but what about this diagnosis? You say, God is my supply. And then you calculate, but what about the numbers? You say, the Lord is my light. And then you squint at the shadow of an enemy. You say, I am forgiven. And then you review a ledger that binds you to yesterday's darkness. Notice it. As long as there is a but, there are two powers in your consciousness, and the but will bully your prayer until you sit still and let it die. Look at how the mind builds the battlefield. It sets God on one hill and disease on the other, and then your thoughts become the soldiers you must send to keep God from losing ground. It sets God on one hill and lack on the other, and then you arm yourself with affirmations, as if God needed artillery. It sets God on one hill and your past on the other, and then you negotiate ceasefires with memory. This is not prayer. This is mental war. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Spirit is not one of two. Spirit is the all that leaves nothing outside to fight it. But there is evil in the world, someone says. I know what the eyes report, what the headlines rehearse, what the nerves confess. I am not asking you to deny appearances. I am asking you to deny them authority. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is oneness. Righteous judgment says, because God is one, that which claims power apart from God has none. Not less power, none. You cannot see this with the eyes, taste it with the tongue, prove it with arithmetic. You realize it when you let go of the second power you have been nursing. In that realization, fear loosens, because there is no rival to fear. Do not misunderstand. The work is not to rouse God to come down and beat disease, stomp out lack, muzzle your enemies, or rewrite your history. The work is to awaken here, now, to the fact that God alone is power, and that what parades as a second power is a belief sustained by fear. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from what? From the very belief that bondage has a law to stand on. When liberty is realized, harmony appears by grace, not by wrestling. Practice this in the secret chamber of your heart. When a fear rises, do not fight the fear. Expose the premise that gives it credentials. Ask, what two powers am I entertaining? God and germs. God and money? God and reputation? God and time? Stop. Identify the second throne and vacate it. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, not as a scold, but as a rescue. When the second throne is empty, the battlefield dissolves for lack of enemies. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy to maintain oneness by effort. You do not keep God one. God is one. You do not secure the victory. There is no battle in God. Your part is surrender of the divided premise. I can of my own self do nothing. Let the Father within be the is, that is already all. Then you will find that fear, which fed on the fiction of two, starves in the presence of one. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Not because you have superior weapons, but because thou art with me, in me, as me, not two. So be still, and let the axiom be marrow to your bones. God is power. Therefore there is only one power. Carry it not as a slogan, but as air. Carry it into the hospital and the marketplace, into the memory and the forecast, into the face of the one you called enemy, and into the mirror where you called yourself accuser. As long as you believe there are two, fear must govern. As soon as you consent to one, fear has no office to occupy. Hear it again until it hears you. God is one. God is. And in that oneness, the field is peace. Having seen how the mind erects two hills, and then drafts your prayers as soldiers, now lay down the weapon you thought was holy. Thought is not power. As long as you believe there is power in a good thought, you will remain far from the kingdom of heaven. Your finest affirmations, your most earnest visualizations, your carefully arranged right thinking, all of it is the mind trying to manage God. Stop. Who, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit to his stature? Who can, by a syllable more or less, alter the is of God? Which of you, by taking thought, can make 1 hair white or black? Who, by argument, can guarantee 1 hour of peace? Thought answers, I can try. Spirit answers, I am. Do not misunderstand me. The letter has its place. You will study, you will mark your pages, you will rehearse the truth until it is seated in you that God is one. That is the letter of truth. But the letter is a scaffold, not the temple, a map, not the country, a lamp for the hallway that leads to a door you must enter without luggage. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. The letter does not kill because it is evil. It kills when you cling to it beyond its use. Its purpose is to lift you above superstition and fear into a posture of trust so that you can finally be still. Then, the spirit can announce itself. The letter prepares the mind to be quiet. The spirit reveals what the mind cannot deliver. Look at the addiction to technique. You say, if I say it 3 times, if I hold the image for 5 minutes, if I attach a verse to it, surely the door will open. That is bargaining by another name. It assumes God is a mechanism to be operated by correct sequence. It assures you that if the sequence fails, you can correct it tomorrow, and so you live tomorrow-minded, never present to the presence. My thoughts are not your thoughts. When you try to reach God by thought, you announce that your thoughts are sufficient ladders. They are not. They cannot be. The carnal mind, by which I mean the mind that works in opposites and hopes to control, is enmity to God, not through sin, but through structure. It cannot perceive oneness because it functions by contrast. So, when you attempt to think your way into God, you sustain the very apparatus that cannot behold God. What then shall we do with thought? We yield it. We let it come to the end of its jurisdiction. We let our finest truths perform their sole service to escort us to silence. Be still and know that I am God. Not be inventive and know. Not be articulate and know. Be still. Let your treasured phrases dissolve back into the sea of the spirit from which they rose. Let the mind discover its right humility. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. As long as you are busy thinking truth at God, you are not receiving God. True prayer puts you on the receiving end of God. Make this practical. When fear speaks, do not argue with it. Do not pile positive thoughts against negative thoughts, as if 2 piles could make a mountain that touches heaven. Ask rather, what second power am I granting by this debate? Then retire from the debate. Let your tongue fall quiet before you instruct infinity. Hold those teeth together if you must. Sit not to produce a thought, but to witness the end of thinking as power. In that quiet, the presence that is already here announces itself not as a sentence, not as a picture, but as a still certainty that needs no defender. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. And yet when it stands, everything unnecessary falls. Yes, you will still study. Yes, you will still remember the sentences that turn you toward the gate, but know their office. The mantra God is not a lever. It is a surrender. It does not make God be. It loosens your grip on the mind's machinery until it winds down of itself. And there, without a technique, without a bargain, without a boast, grace appears as what always was. Thought did not open the door. It stood aside. You do not reach God by thought. You yield thought so that God may be realized. Now let us come to the hinge on which the door swings. If thought is not power, who is it that does the work? Hear the Master. I can of my own self do nothing. Do not recite it. Confess it. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy, not as a wound, but as the honesty that ends pretending. As long as you carry, even secretly, the notion that your skill, your fervor, your spiritual cleverness can make God appear, You will be pacing in a small room with mirrors on every wall. The flesh profiteth nothing, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. The humility that admits I can do nothing is not despair. It is the humility that steps aside so that the Spirit may do what the Spirit alone can do. Let this be a paradox that comforts you. Your inadequacy is the doorway. In the world, you have been taught to disguise inability, to inflate resumes, to polish attempts until they gleam. In the Spirit, the polish is precisely what blocks the light. My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. When you stop staging competence before God, grace finds a way through, not to reward your honesty, but because there is finally room to move. The Father within me doeth the works, not the Father beyond the stars. The Father within, the very is of God, functioning as your life when the little doer moves off the stage. Now let us expose the hidden doer in holy clothes. Listen to your praying. Does it arrange timelines by Thursday, Lord, as if the eternal must meet your calendar? Does it outline plans, first this, then this, as if omniscience needs your blueprint? Does it assert rights, I have declared this promise, as if quoting the letter could command the Spirit? That is the old doer wearing a robe. Not my will, but thine be done. If that sentence is a performance, it is still your will trying to coax God into compliance. If it is a surrender, it is the end of your project management. You see how sly the ego is. It learns religious phrases to remain central. It talks softly while it keeps the reins. Stop, stop. Let the reins slip. Let the desire to be seen as a good practitioner, a powerful prayer, fall to the floor. You do not have to be powerful. God is power. Therefore, there is only one power. Here is the turning point. Simple enough for a child, strong enough for your night of wrestling. Father within, do thou the works. Do not make of that a new technique. It is not a request sent upward. It is a yielding into what already is. It is the personal sense saying, I retire. It is the mind stopping its management and consenting to presence. Speak it once, if you must, to set your direction, and then be still. Let that be the end of your doing. It is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. The doing of God requires your non-doing. The more you try to add your muscle to it, the more you veil it. Make this concrete. In the hospital room, hand off the outcome. Father within, do thou the works. And then be silent, refusing to visualize, refusing to demand. In the tangle of your finances, surrender the timeline that panics you. Father within, do thou the works. And then refuse to bargain with numbers in your prayer. In the conflict where words have sharpened to knives, lay down your right to win. Father within, do thou the works, and then hold your tongue even inwardly. This is not passivity. It is availability. It is not apathy. It is alignment. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. The casting is not an act of improved leverage. It is the relinquishment of control. Do not stumble at this. The Father within is not a second person installing a victory in you while you watch. The kingdom of God is within you. In him we live and move and have our being. The surrender of the doer is the surrender of the belief in separation. When the sense of a little private operator yields. Oneness is free to be known as the only life here. Then prayer ceases to be a transaction, me asking, God answering, and becomes communion, God being. Apart from me, ye can do nothing. Together, there is no apart in God. There is only the is of God, revealing harmony by grace. So practice the blessed inadequacy. Let it be your gate, not your grief. Whisper, if you need a whisper. I can of my own self do nothing. Father within, do thou the works. Then stop. Hold those teeth together. Be still and know. In the instant you cease to try to be the doer, you will find you have become available to grace. And grace, which needed no help to be itself, will appear as the peace that passes understanding. God is. And in that is, the works are already done. Now let us place in your hands a single seed. 2 words, not to operate God, not to rally courage, not to brace against fear, but to return to what already is. God is, not God will, not God might, not God should. God is. Say it as a scalpel that cuts away every adjective you have ever glued onto the holy. God is. It will shave from your lips the bargains, the arguments, the compliments you thought heaven needed. It will leave you with being. I am that I am, not an attribute, not a schedule. Is, if you find yourself reaching for descriptions, good, loving, wise, stop. Stop. Those are fine words in their place. But in the secret place of prayer, they easily become handles the mind uses to steer the infinite. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The shepherd is not a definition. It is an is. The lack of want flows from isness, not from persuasion. So remove the handles. God is. When fear rises with scenarios, do not build a counter scenario. Do not erect a better movie to play over the dark one. Enter the stillness and let the mantra do its only work. Dismiss the theater. God is. God is. God is. As you say it, do not strain to feel holy. Do not check your pulse for certainty. The point is not to manufacture conviction. The point is to strip prayer down to reality. Be still and know that I am God. Be still first, then knowledge. Not knowledge that ends in a sentence, but the knowing that ends the need for sentences. Notice what these words refuse. They refuse tomorrow. God will. They refuse conditions. God if. They refuse control. God do. They refuse comparison. God versus. They refuse your edit. God is, the mind will try to decorate it. God is love. God is light. And yes, Scripture says so. But for this moment, let even those holy letters roll back into the sea. Let the bare isness stand. Before Abraham was, I am. Not was. Am. Now, make it practical, but make it clean. When the diagnosis speaks, do not address the diagnosis. God is. When the account balances glare, do not speak to numbers. God is. When memory drags its net through your mistakes, do not debate history. God is. As long as you answer appearances with alternative appearances, you live in the house of two powers. As soon as you retire all appearances to the silence of isness, oneness is free to disclose itself as peace. In him we live and move and have our being. Being, not bargaining. Do you see what is happening? The phrase is not building a tower to reach God. It is dismantling scaffolds that never touched him. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. You can only consent. Let the words be few, then fewer, then none. Use them as you use. A key turn once, enter, and put it in your pocket. God is. If the mind protests, but what about? Answer only with the is. If the heart aches, do not anesthetize it with chatter. Rest it in the is. If you feel nothing at first, trust the emptiness. The soil does not hear the seed sprout. It yields. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. Acquaint yourself with the is, not with a picture of the is. Peace is what remains when the pictures go. Now let us sit inwardly and allow the repetition to loosen the grip of thinking, not loudly, not as a drum, as breath. God is. Let it fall through you the way a stone settles to the riverbed. God is. Let it stand where your anxieties used to stand. Sentinel. God is. Let it empty you of the need to perform faith. God is. Let it answer every question without becoming an answer sheet. God is. God is. God is. And when the phrase has done its merciful erasing, let it end. Hold those teeth together. Be still. No telling God. No displaying virtue. No monitoring results. The prayer has become receiving. The certainty you could not manufacture is not needed, because reality does not require your certainty to be. God is. In that is, prayer is already fulfilled as presence, and you are already home where there was never another place to go. Now we come to the holy pivot, where the whole practice changes sides. Up to now, you have allowed the two words to do their merciful erasing. Now, stop. Stop speaking at God. Prayer becomes real when you stop talking at God and begin receiving God. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. If the Father knows, to whom are you giving your reports? If omniscience is present, who needs your briefing? The talk may soothe the mind, but it does not open the ear. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Let the earth of your thoughts be silent. Hold those teeth together. Let the tongue be quiet. Be still. This is not rudeness. It is reverence. Words have delivered you to the threshold. Now they must wait outside. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Why? Because repetition binds you to your own echo. You think you are knocking on heaven's door, and all the while you are rehearsing to yourself, and your rehearsal calms you for a moment and then demands another rehearsal. That is narcotic, not nourishment. Silence is not another technique. It is the posture of receiving. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Not hear, Lord, for thy servant speaketh. Let that reversal take hold in you. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Make this very simple, very clean. First, acknowledge reality. God is. Not a syllable more is needed to qualify the infinite. Second, release the thing you dragged into prayer as an agenda. Lay it on the altar and step back. Do not tie a string to it so you can pull it home if heaven moves too slowly. Do not outline the outcome or the time of delivery. Not my will, but thine be done. Third, wait. Wait without composing the future. Wait without manufacturing a holy feeling. Wait without listening for a sentence in English. Wait for nothing. And in that nothing, the all that already is announces itself. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Quietness first. Confidence flows from presence, not from prediction. The mind will protest. But if I do not ask, how shall I receive? Listen closely. It is your asking that often keeps you from receiving, because you are asking for what you have imagined rather than receiving what is. As long as you inform God of conditions, you maintain the premise that there are conditions outside of God with news to deliver. As long as you instruct God on outcomes, you announce to your own heart that God is a means to an end you prefer. That is two powers in prayer clothes. Let it go. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy to run a universe. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Your part is not production. It is consent. Do not fear the emptiness when the tongue stops. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. You can only consent. The silence is not absence. It is the presence without opposite. In time, you will notice that what you called problem has lost its credentials in that presence, not because you argued it away, but because the light exposes the fiction of a second power. Harmony comes not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Spirit does not arrive as the result of your phrasing. Spirit is realized when phrasing ends. So practice it now in the manner of breathing. God is. Lay the bundle down. Be still. If memory reaches to snatch the bundle back, do not quarrel with memory. Do not chase it with better phrases. Hold those teeth together. Let the heart kneel without words. Where two or three are gathered in this inner consent, there am I in the midst of them, not as a guest arriving, but as a presence discovered. Then, when the inner hush stands of itself, do not break it to announce that you have achieved silence. Remain. Let grace prove itself by being itself. Prayer on the receiving end requires no witness but peace. And when at last you rise from that quiet, do not convert it to a report or pin a ribbon on it. Walk gently. Let the residue of that stillness move your steps. The Father within has done, is doing, will ever do the works. Your tongue is free from its old employment. Your ear is awakened. Morning by morning he wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. The work of prayer has shifted from telling to hearing, from managing to yielding, from bargaining to being. God is. Be still. Receive. Now let us be very honest at the point where honesty costs us our favorite comforts. When the telephone rings in the night, when the doctor clears his throat, when the numbers glare, what God do you pray to? Do you picture a distant ruler seated above, weighing your case to decide? Do you whisper to a judge with a ledger, hoping your recent goodness will tip the scale? Do you plead with an absent helper who might arrive if you strike the right tone? Or is it a lifeguard on a far shore, waving while you swallow water? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. In crisis, the secret image rises. Let it rise so you can see it. Fear is diagnostic. It is a mercy in disguise because it reveals the premise you are living under. As long as you believe there is a power opposite to God that must be overcome, your praying will be panic dressed up for church. As long as you believe evil has law, disease has authority, lack has dominion, the heart will tremble and the tongue will rush to fill the air. That is not prayer. That is bargaining with a battlefield. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? You see? Whom? Not what technique, not what strategy. Whom? If there is one, there is no second to fear. Do not fight fear with positive statements. Do not paint bright words over a trembling wall. That only multiplies words and fastens your attention to the very premise that frightens you. Stop. Stop. Let fear be what it is, a siren announcing you are entertaining two powers. Then turn not to slogans, but to inquiry. Ask cleanly, what do I mean by God in this moment, and is it true? If the answer reveals a fixer among forces, a negotiator with limits, a patron who can be flattered, you have your diagnosis. That is not God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Not as a scold, as a rescue. Make it practical at once. When fear bites, before you utter a syllable, hold those teeth together. Be still. Ask within, whom am I addressing? A far authority? A moody sovereign? An emergency technician? Then release that picture. Let it fall away like a mask you forgot you were wearing. Do not replace it with a prettier mask. Return to the bare root. God is. Not God versus. Not God if. Not God please. God is. And because God is one, there is no rival to cajole, no second power to conquer. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, not to loan it, to give. Present is, if the heart still shakes, do not school it with arguments. Place the fear in the light of oneness. I must be believing in two. That is all. See the mechanism and lay it down. Perfect love casteth out fear, not because it wrestles fear to the ground, but because in love's presence there is no opposite to validate the tremor. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. With me, not arriving, not deciding, with. Here, now. Ask it again until it answers honestly. What do I mean by God in this moment? Is it true? If it is anything other than the present, infinite, one, power, drop it. Let the mind mourn its favorite idol for a breath. Then be still and know. You cannot see this, hear this, taste this, touch this, smell this, or think this. You can only consent. In that consent, the pulse of panic loses its warrant. Not by force, but by exposure. Light does not argue darkness. It renders it impossible. So the next time fear taps the glass of your consciousness, take it as an usher, not an enemy. Follow it to the door where idols are surrendered. Step through with the two-word treatment, held lightly, like breath. God is. Remain until the question of outcomes dissolves and only presence remains. Lo, I am with you always. When the inventory is honest, the surrender is simple, and in the simplicity of one, prayer is no longer a cry across distance, but the quiet recognition of what is. Now we must settle the question that keeps prayer on the wrong side of a closed door. Distance. As long as you imagine God over there and yourself over here, you will talk at shadows and wait for echoes. Stop. Stop. The kingdom of God is within you, not beyond you, not later. In him we live and move and have our being. If we live and move and have our being in him, where shall we go to find him? Across a sky, up a ladder of syllables? Whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. Do you see? Distance is a dream the mind builds from its own sense of separateness. God, you, and the world are not three. Hear the Master. I and my Father are one. He did not say, I and my Father cooperate nicely. He did not say, I and my Father convene meetings. One, and then he widened the circle beyond any circle we have ever drawn, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us. The presence that constitutes you constitutes all, not a different God in you and a different God in your neighbor and another God cornered in the problem. One life, one mind, one love expressed as all that appears. Do not push this down into matter or up into clouds. Do not make of it a pantheism that sprinkles deity like dust on objects. Let it be what it is. The living is of God, indivisible, silently being itself as the substance and law of all. How does this change prayer? It ends the postal system. You are not sending a message to a remote office where petitions are stamped, approved, or returned to sender. True prayer is awakening within what already is. Be still and know that I am God. Not be loud and persuade that I am God. Knowledge follows stillness. Because in stillness, the false premise of two gives up its passport. Your tongue cannot cross a border that does not exist. Your consent reveals it never was there. As soon as oneness is realized, prayer stops being a transaction, me here, God there, world out there, to be managed, and becomes communion, the quiet recognition of presence as the only context of being. Let it become very simple and very practical. When you sit to pray for the one called patient, remember, God and the practitioner and the patient are one. There is not a healer, a disease, and a God to referee. There is the presence of God revealing itself as the only life there. Your part is not to project thoughts across space. Your part is to rest in the truth that the life that constitutes you constitutes that one, and that life knows no opposite. Hold those teeth together. Do not outline. Do not visualize. Do not attempt to dial God into the room. God is. Remain until that isness discloses itself as peace. When you face a quarrel and feel your chest tighten, notice the instant reflex to build a case. Stop. That is the old two-power courtroom assembling its jury. Instead, retire a step inward and acknowledge the only fact that can change anything. God is. The I that would defend or attack is the little doer trying to resurrect separation. Whisper, if whisper you must. Father, within, be thyself as the only I here. Then be still. Wait until labels drop. Until the face before you is no longer adversary or ally, but the same life by which you breathe. You do not see this with eyes, or hear it with ears. You cannot taste, touch, smell, or think it. You can only consent. Yet when you consent, heat leaves the moment, and what needed mending melts because the seam was imagined. When the news of the world escalates your pulse wars, shortages, storms, do not run to scatter prayers like confetti over many fires. Do not place God here, enemy there, victims over yonder. That multiplies gods and guarantees fear. Return to the sanctuary where arithmetic ends. God is one. Therefore, there is only one power. There is no opposite power growing in the headlines. Admit that and be still. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Not shall be, is. Let your prayer be not a report to God about conditions, but a recognition of God as the only condition. From that recognition, actions may arise wise, quiet, timely, but they will not be born of panic. They will be the natural expression of oneness. You will ask, what if I feel separate? Good. You have caught the thief. Do not argue with it. Do not chase feelings with better feelings. Sit, hold those teeth together. God is. Let the mind bring its cast of characters, and then let them bow and leave the stage, one by one, without curtain calls. Wait until there is just the hush where you are and the hush where the world seems to be, and discover it is the same hush where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. There am I in the midst of them. In this gathering, the 2 or 3 are not persons. They are thoughts stilled into one consent. The midst is everywhere. The name is I am. Practice this until it changes the way you walk through your day. In the kitchen, God is. In the office, God is. In the hospital, God is. Not a God arriving because you remembered him, but the only life realizing itself where remembrance has stopped pretending to be power. As long as you keep the model of 3, God, you, and the world, you will feel compelled to manage all 3. Let it go. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy to hold the universe together. Then rest in the sufficiency that has never depended on you. As long as God is, I am, and nothing is outside that I amness. In that realization, prayer is no longer a reaching. It is a being, communion, not communication. Presence, not performance. God is. Remain until that is all that remains. Now let us face the last mask. The ego wears a holy mask with tight jaw and furrowed brow. It calls itself spiritual effort. It flexes. It strains. It tries very hard to be good, to be pure, to be healed, to heal. And in that trying there is a subtle violence. The heart is pushed. The breath is held. The mind is driven like a mule in a circle. You feel it white-knuckled prayer, clenched thought, the urge to force harmony into place, as if harmony were a reluctant guest who must be dragged through the door. That is not prayer. That is personal will-performing devotion. Stop, stop. It is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that sheweth mercy. Harmony does not come by might, nor by power, nor by mental strain, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. As long as you believe that intense thinking, refined formulas, or heroic piety produce results, you remain at the center of your own stage, and the stage lights are hot. The body knows this heat. The soul grows tired under it. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy, not to punish yourself, but to release yourself. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Cease from the man you think you are when you believe you can push the river. You cannot. River flows. Grace flows. My grace is sufficient for thee. For my strength is made perfect in weakness. The weakness is not moral failure. It is the blessed yielding of the little doer who has finally learned that the door opens inward when your hand leaves the knob. So hear the reversal and let it wash the strain from your nerves. Harmony is not achieved. It is revealed when you yield. Yield to what? To God is. Not God will if I press hard enough. Not God might if I get the words right. God is. The moment you stop trying to add your wattage to the sun lights the room you already live in. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The lily does not underachieve. It abides in law. Let your prayer abide in law. The law of one, power revealing itself without your strain. Here is the lived experiment. Make it your next hour. Take the most tempting situation, the one you are trying to manage, into peace. Before you lift a hand or assemble a sentence, lay down the urge to fix. Literally feel it in the shoulders and let it drop. Hold those teeth together. Whisper once as a key turning. God is. Then do nothing. Refuse to visualize outcomes. Refuse to time the infinite. Refuse to brace your chest for a result. Sit in the fact you cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. You can only consent. Remain until the compulsion to produce subsides. In that subsiding, watch how right action, if any is needed, rises of itself simple, quiet, timely, as breath returns when you stop holding it. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Quietness first. Confidence as the fruit, not the cause. Try it in conversation when heat rises. The tongue prepares to correct, to win. Stop. God is. The sentence you thought would save the day may fall away, and a different presence will speak, or silence will speak for you. Try it at the desk when numbers glare. The hand reaches for another spreadsheet, another projection built on panic. Stop. God is. The one power does not balance ledgers. It is the substance by which balance reveals itself. Try it in the body. When the ache demands, you worry it into submission. Stop. God is. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Not one. But by resting in isness, you withdraw the false authority fear had written into your flesh. Do not postpone grace to a holier you or a riper tomorrow. Now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. Grace is not earned later. It is recognized now when resistance ends. You end resistance not by heroic effort, but by surrender, by the honest admission, I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Then you wait without outline until the works appear as peace, as a softened face, as a phone call that arrives unplanned, as the inner sense that the knot is not there to be untied because it was never there in God. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest precedes result. Rest is the result, because rest is grace realized. Bring the laboring will to the altar. Lay it down. God is. Be still. Let harmony appear where strain has ceased to block the view. And when it appears, and it will, because it is, do not take credit and thereby take back the burden. Give thanks within the quiet, not as a transaction, but as recognition. Grace does the works. Grace is the works. God is. Remain until even the idea of remaining melts into presence being presence. Let us close now without adding anything. No new thought, no new promise, only the simple act of consenting to what already is. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Let the earth of your thoughts, your plans, your devotions be still. Sit as you are. Let the shoulders drop their story. Let the brow soften. Loosen the fingers. Let the hands rest. Open. Hold those teeth together, not in strain, but to halt the old habit of telling. Allow the breath to be as it is. Do not make a pattern. Do not improve upon oxygen. Be still and know that I am God. Be still first. Knowledge will not come as a sentence. It comes as the end of sentences. Now, quietly, as on the inside of the breath, let the 2 words be present. God is. Not as a shout, not as a banner, as a feather settling. God is. Let it touch the heart and find its own place. God is. If thoughts rise, do not fight them. Let them pass through a presence, that needs no defense. God is. As you sit, notice what these words ask of you. They ask you to release your definitions. Lay them down, one by one, without argument. Not God as a fixer. Not God as a mood. Not God as a superior mind. Let every attribute, even the dearest ones, return to the sea from which they came. I am that I am, not because I name it thus, but because it is thus without my naming. God is. Let the breath be easy. Feel the weight of the body in the chair, on the floor, and let the weight be a sacrament. This is where presence is recognized, not elsewhere. The tongue need not move. The forehead need not lean forward to find, whither shall I flee from thy presence? There is nowhere to go and nothing to fetch. God is. Now allow the two words to grow lighter still. Do not clutch them. Do not weave them into a fence. Use them as a key turns once in a lock. God is. Then set the key down. Say it once more within, and let the echo fade into the room beyond words. God is. And then let even that go. This is the holy nothing in which the all is apparent. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. You can only consent. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth, not to syllables, to the hush, not to a thing arriving, to the is that never departed. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. There are no works to plan here, only the presence being presence. Remain. Do not measure. Do not ask if you are doing it right. There is no it and no you to do. Rest. In him we live and move and have our being. Let being be. If a thought returns to announce progress, bow to it and let it go. If a feeling blooms, do not chase it for petals. Let it be the fragrance of the unseen garden. If nothing appears at all, be content, for nothing is the doorway through which isness is recognized. Now, in this unadorned stillness, the subtle shift occurs. What you meant by God yields to what God is. The picture dissolves. The presence remains. Not an object in your awareness, but the very light of awareness itself. Before Abraham was, I am. Feel that not as memory, not as poetry, but as the simple, incontrovertible fact that does not wait for your belief. It is not outside you, nor inside you, nor somewhere else. It is the I that is not other than God. Stay a breath longer. No push, no purpose. Just the quiet fact. God is, without words now, without watcher and watched. One. When you rise, do so gently, as from holy ground, carrying nothing but this unspeakable simplicity. The concept has fallen away. The presence remains.